Hey, it's Mac with PriceActionTradingSystem.com, and today is, I forget, I think it's the 28th, August 28th. It's Thursday though, I know that. This will be our wrap up our week. No chart lessons on Fridays, so another week in the books. But interesting day today. This channel, I believe to be correct. It was a little difficult to find because you didn't start. I originally drew it off the lows, but it just wasn't fitting right. So I tried it off this line of price action here, and suddenly it was fitting real well. And you can see as the day progressed, it played out perfectly. You got your break here. You ran up two legs to a new high. It's not two measured legs, but prices couldn't get through that resistance. And then you made a lower high here, and it sold off. You got a channel working down here. You got a break or a close outside here. Move to a new low. And then you had a channel working up, and you finally had a break. It was well after 2 o'clock. So all the price action was relatively straightforward. Obviously, there's smaller trend lines in here. And people ask me, how does that help? How does that keep you on the right side? Well, here's a great example right here. Look at this channel coming down. If you don't draw your line here, you're expecting prices to come all the way back down to this trend line. But guess what? They come up short. Well, if you're reading the price action, notice there's a channel working down here. You get a close outside and a new low. Well, guess what? You could get a reversal now. And that's exactly what happens. And then you've also got the support working across here. And notice you get the failed break lower here. You can tell that's a clear little channel right there, congestion. You get the break, and that leads to a big move out the other side. And we make that lower high from this one, and then it's off to the races to the downside. So that's why you draw the short term, just like here. Look at it working up. You get your close outside, a couple of swings to a new high, and then you're working down. So if you draw these short-term trend lines, it really, really helps you. And although it doesn't work as well on what looks like a possible range day, always measure your, draw your measured moves. There's your first one, and then we kind of went higher from here. They're about the same. Doesn't matter. Still get you in the same vicinity. And you can see that's about where we went to. So this is a channel. But you could trade this one both ways. Most of your trades are going to be to the upside because the trend is up. But you can clearly see prices swinging back and forth above and below the EMA. And generally you can trade that both ways. So interesting day, really. It looks a lot range-like, but at the same time, it's an uptrend. And then there's a clear downtrend, and you can see the volatility's picking back up again. There's a lot of volume in here today. Still nothing like we were having, and we may not have any price. We may not have volatility like that for a long time to come. But at the same time, it wouldn't surprise me if it picked back up like that again if some more bad news comes out, or especially after the election. So the good thing about this morning is there were several really good trades early on, and if you caught this one trade, which was relatively straightforward, I mean, that's a huge move up there, and that would be the only trade you need. So it was a real good morning starting out. So let's back out. We'll talk about the trades, and we'll wrap up our week today. All right, this first trade comes right at 7 o'clock. But notice we had this congestion. There's really a little bit of a downtrend here, but you can see the strong support. We have a little drop lower, and when you come back in and you try to go lower once and then twice. So that's a failed second entry short right at the support line after a failed breakout right at 7 o'clock. I like going long there, and that's a quick, easy move. And even that short trade there gives you a nice runner. There's 5 or 6, maybe even 7 points in there, depending on what you could squeeze out of it. And then notice there's a new low. You try to go short once and then twice. And it's really a quick repeat pattern almost. And you get another failed second entry short. The key is make sure you got enough room. You may not could have got in this trade because notice how it just closes on its high, opens and keeps going. It does back up, but with this being into those highs, I wouldn't try to trade it backing up. I only would trade it into it. So this one could almost be green. It just depends on if you have enough room to get out there. So we run back down. We bounce down here at the same place. It's tempting to go along there, and you really could. I could make that green. I really could. I went back and forth about it and just never made my mind up, but we'll go ahead and make it green. There's reasons to want to take that trade. I mean, of course, you can see support there, and it's another little failed break lower, but notice how many times we bounced across there. So, you know, you could argue that we touched there, then it's a double test. It's a nice bullish signal bar that traded way down here and closed up. It's closing inside that trend line. So you could take that one. I think you're better off to wait and see if you get a higher low, which comes right here. So just go along right there. And if you took either one of the, actually with this one you wouldn't get a runner, but with this one you do. Generally this one would give you the runner and this one would stop you out. But you could get a runner on this and look at it go. And I say you wouldn't get a runner on this, but it depends on how you entered. If you let it break higher and drop the limit order a few ticks back and waited on it to come back, you might have got in there and survived. So, but generally you're not going to want to do that right there, I don't think. So this was the trade of the day. Off it goes. And if you can catch that one, you know, 375 to, I mean, that's a 15-point move. So if you could squeeze even 10 or 12 points out of that, that's a great runner. And that one's not hard to do. If you just, even if you just moved your stop up below each bar, you would have got out within, you know, a point or so of the top, and that's as good as it gets. So that's a perfect move up for a runner and everything, even keeping your stop tight. Then we turn down, and there's a little bit of a hidden second entry here, right here. I marked this green. This is, you probably don't want to take this trade. I marked it green. And you can see, if you went to a little slightly smaller chart, you'd see a second entry. But technically, this is your signal bar, and it's too bullish. This is another one of those inside bars. So it's not a great setup, but you know what's probably coming on a, I mean, this was a range. You can clearly see the resistance there, the support down here. And so you know what's probably coming. We're at least coming back to here to test this. And if this trend line's right, we're probably coming all the way back to here. So you might want to risk that one. But even if you don't, you get a second entry right here. Notice the new low, and then a first entry, and then you come back and then a second entry. And your entry, I'm just going to say this because I've had a couple of traders that just can't get these second entries lately. Your entry, this is your signal bar. The signal bar always makes the highest point in the swing. You can't, it's not arbitrary. The price action tells you. And your entry is one tick below it. So as soon as that bar closes, you won't know what this bar is doing yet, but you're assuming it's going to break lower, and you put your sell stop right there. And if it does break lower, then you're triggered in the trade, and it runs down and a quick scalp there. But, oops, didn't mean to do that. But we bounce right off the trend line, 2 legs up. I didn't mark this one because that trend line's still in play, and you don't get a lower high, and then next thing you know, you're rocketing higher again. And there's a little pullback right here. You would expect prices to at least make a measured move here, but maybe even go all the way to the trend channel line if this channel is correct. And so that gives you enough room to scalp out there. This broke lower first and turned and went out the other side. A trader asked me about this. It's definitely aggressive, and that's why I marked it green. I don't think I would take that red. And you got to be careful going long into that midline too, but you would expect it to back up there and then pull back, or either push through and pull back and test it. So, but he asked me if I thought that was a trap. It doesn't. You could argue that probably traps some people, but that's not the kind of trap we're looking for. I'd rather see a failed second entry and it at least bounce off the EMA, and we don't see that there. So to me, that's just a continuation of a relatively strong move up. And then we run up here, and you get caught up here at the highs, and prices are trying their best to go higher. And this is a good example here. People ask me, I usually tell people you're better off to stay out of congestion unless you can read the chart really well and kind of understand why you're getting congestion. And this is a good example that I can explain that most of you will probably understand. Well, there's a trend channel line right there, and prices are still strong because that is a strong move. And so there's still traders that don't have any clue what they're doing, that are just buying because they think the trend is going higher. And so there's still some buying coming in here. It's really a kind of a it's a place where the market's taking its breath, and it's probably going to turn down because that's the trend channel line. And look how far away we are from the EMA, all of that. So if you understand what's going on there, this is a good time you could probably enter out of congestion. But if you get right in here, this is where you don't know, because are we really going lower, and the reason we're finding congestion is because we just don't have enough momentum yet, and we don't have enough momentum to get through the EMA either. Or is it going to find some support here and reverse? This one is harder to know because it's in the middle of everything. But this one, it's pretty obvious why prices are congesting here, because it was a strong move up, and it's going to take a minute for the momentum to subside before it starts to work lower again. And so I like that short right there. It's a little bit aggressive because it is congestion. But if you understand what's going on there, I don't have any problem taking that lower high. And if you do, there's another great move of the runner all the way back to the bottom. And this one actually goes a little further. And this was another one that if you just moved your stop down below each bar, you don't get stopped out until way down here, about where you'd have your target anyway. So you might have got stopped out on your target before you got stopped out here. And of course, you actually get the break of the trend line, and then it's moving higher. And you don't get a good reversal set up here. There's a failed second entry short, but it's way back up here. You could say, hey, you could mark this one green because it's off the trend line, but that's congestion. And I think and that's, again, it's in the middle. You just don't know what's going on there. You don't know if you're going to get through that midline. I'd skip that. And you just don't get a chance to enter this one. It goes all the way up here. Notice it doesn't get quite to the high, and then we're back in, we're trending down. We had the break here, but we already have a new high in place, so you would expect that, hey, maybe we're going lower. I didn't draw the trend line, but there is a trend line here. But you can clearly see the failed second entry short, and we did push through the EMA, and you are going short below it. So I like that one. And you would expect that we're going all the way down here, but guess what? We still end up getting back to that trend channel line before we go lower. And look what happens here. You don't quite make it here, and you try to go higher, but you still end up getting there before you get back up here. Actually, you reverse from there. So a lot of times, just because you didn't get here doesn't mean prices aren't still trying to get here. Or just because you didn't get here doesn't mean prices won't try again, just like they did right here. So just keep that in mind. That's the point of me pointing that out. But I don't like entering here. We turn down off the high. You get a lower high here, but it's right into the EMA. I think you're better off to wait, and then you're in congestion. And notice you're going sideways again here, and it fails out. This is almost a repeat pattern from back here. And so even if we're going lower here, you would expect it to pull back to here. So I like, and that's a nice bullish bar. Plenty of room back to the EMA. So I like that one. The bias, I will say that the bias is up overall, but the short-term bias is down. So even though this is working down, the overall larger bias is probably still in play here. Runs up. You get a lower high here. This one's one you might take, but that's congestive. Again, you could argue for it to be green. It breaks higher and turns and goes out the other side. But it could have easily broke lower and turned up because of that congestion. So I didn't mark it. You could argue for it to be green, but we'll go ahead and mark it green. But I think you're better off to wait and see if you get a little better short than that, just in case we're still going to run back up here first. But guess what? It goes just where you would think it was, back down. But you get a failed second entry short here off the EMA. That's the kind I like to see. Plenty of room back to the trend line, but we've already had the break way back here and a new high in place, and now we're making lower highs and trending lower. So, and you got to be careful going short right in here, but then we pull back and you get a lower high right here after this new high. There's actually a second entry short right here, and then but the signal bar is not very good, and then you get the lower high like right off the trend line. Nice trade moving down. You make a new low, first entry, and then right off the trend line, a second entry short. And you didn't get much more than a scalp out of that one. Actually, you could have gotten more. It depends on how you managed it. But if you're playing your runners at break even, no runner there. And then you make another new low, and then another second entry short. And then this thing, of course, you get a close outside here too. You don't quite get a new low, and then it's reversed and gone the other way. Notice that you're working up first entry, second entry. I only marked this one because it was just right off the midline. I'd rather see it back here at the EMA on a failed second entry, but if it breaks higher, it's probably going to trap. A lot of these shorts may have to exit. Then it runs back to the trend line. Notice you got this channel working down. You get the break, the new low, and you also get an overshoot. And this actually breaks lower, turns, and goes up. I like going long with that. And look how that thing burst up right there. The shorts realized quickly that what was happening is the shorts are probably re-establishing themselves here, the ones that hadn't exited from over here, thinking we're going shorter. And man, that is a nice short trap right there. And that's what a really good trap looks like. And the reason it burst up real quick, and notice how each bar closes on its high, opens on its low. This one doesn't quite close on its high, but it's close, and then it opens on its low, closes on its high. That's 3 bars in a row, just really strong buying. And what happens is all these people are piling up short, realize, hey, I'm wrong now. And they have to exit, and then the longs that probably got trapped out right here coming back down realize, oops, I should have stayed in, and they jump back in too. And look at it go. And if you could catch this trade, if you waited till here to get in, you're not going to make it. But when it broke lower and turned and came through on that engulfing bar with plenty of room back to the EMA, that's the ideal entry place. And if you get there, you can ride this all the way up. And then I marked one more. It is into 2 o'clock, but it's just like 2:06 or something like that, just barely after 2 o'clock. And it's just a textbook second entry off a trend line. Notice the new high, first entry, and you pull back second entry. Nice bullish bar. Then you get a failed second entry short, and it runs on up some more before you get the break there. And that was it. So normally I tell you not to enter after 2, but just the first couple of minutes, if you get a really good setup, it's okay to enter. I mean, it's not the end of the world. Just don't enter much after that. But I'll back out and show it to you again. There's your trend channel working up, break outside, a couple of legs up. Tried to make another high, and boom, it was off to the races. You're working down, your break outside, a couple of legs down. You're taking off the other way, and well, after 2 o'clock, you got your break, and that was that. So, and I showed you this price action working on some of these short-term channels inside. So use those things. They really help you, especially on days like this. So I hope you had a good week. Hope you had a good trading day. I'm going to wrap it up. We're done for the week. I'll be back again to do it next Monday. We got Labor Day coming up soon. It's not this Monday, but I think it's the following Monday, maybe. So we'll look at the calendar coming up. But I'm going to wrap it up. I'll see you next time. This is Mac with PriceActionTradingSystem.com.